welcome back to the Andujo Boxing Review. Popeye here, and I have Mr. Christoph here on my left side. So today we're going to be talking about Mike Tyson and Royce Jones Jr. coming out of retirement to fight an exhibition match. Man, that's exciting. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to the Andujo Boxing Review, and then you can also follow me on Popeye Boxing 1 on Instagram. All right, so what do you think about all this talk with, Roy Jones Jr., one of the greatest fighters out there in his prime, and with Mike Tyson also being one of the best heavyweights out there in his time?
Man, it's really exciting. So for me personally, I have never watched Mike Tyson get to walk out to the fight, right? Like, I've never got to see him walk out to a fight, so for me personally, it's like really exciting because I'm a huge fan. So it's really special anytime he does anything. I'm really surprised by it, honestly, because I've seen some interviews with Mike Tyson, and he was talking about how he hated the person he was during boxing, and he was over boxing, and so it's really surprising. But I feel like he's in a different space mentally, and just doesn't feel angry anymore, but wants to compete, and he wants to try it in this new personality that he's in. So it's really surprising, but he's amazing. So me personally, Mike Tyson, but go ahead.
Well, I mean, interesting point that you mentioned there, because I followed Mike Tyson's career all the way through the point that he was just became a pro boxer. I mean, I followed him all the way through, and you're absolutely right. Like, he went through some horrific bad times in his life as a boxer. That's what made him interesting as a boxer as well, because certain things that he said in regards to, I'm gonna knock you out, I'm gonna eat your children, biting the ears off. I mean,
in your part?
I don't know anything about that. I don't know nothing about numbers. I just know what I can do.
How about
Kill this mother.
Okay. How about the 19 months off?
What about it? What about it?
Does it pose any problem to you?
We'll see. I doubt it seriously.
You take into the ring a lot of rage. Does that work for you, or does it work against you at times?
Who cares? We're in a fight anyway. What does it matter?
Well, for example, rage against Vander Holyfield worked against you.
Well, it. It's a fight, so whatever happens, happens.
Mike, why do you have to talk like that?
Well, I'm talking to you the way I want to talk to you. You have a problem, turn off your station.
You know what? I think we'll end the discussion right now.
Then we could.
You got it. Have a nice fight, Mike.
Off.
Class act.
he was one of a kind, but then again, he was one of the best entertainers. What do people like? KOs, right?
Exactly.
I mean, he came in there and just dismantled guys that were, 30, 40 pounds heavier than he was, because he wasn't, he was a powerful, heavy duty, heavyweight, but he wasn't naturally a big heavyweight, if you know what I mean. So he just had this dismantling power in which he just went in there and devoured all of his opponents.
Yeah.
So people love to watch him. But yes, he went through some tough moments in his life, went to prison because he got accused of rape.
Yes.
Whether he did it or not, I don't know, but I mean, that's what happened. And as you were mentioning, where he's at with his laugh now, it's true. He's way more at peace. You can tell that when he interviews, when he's in the press, he sounds like he really repented of the things that he did before and said, because you can tell he's more sincere now. He talks about how he feels bad about what he did in the past versus how his real personality is now. So you're right. He got past all those things mentally, and I think now he's mentally strong. He's at peace. He feels like, hey, boxing's all I know, and I can see the point of him wanting to come out. He wants to come out as the new Mike Tyson. The new mentality that he has, the positive thinking that he has. He wants to bring that into the ring as well now. I was watching one of his shows in which he was talking about how, still at age 54, how he feels like, super strong, powerful, and fast. Yeah. And I've seen some of his training sessions, hitting the bags and stuff. I mean, for 54, that guy still has flexibility, moves, speed. He has it all. So, me as a fan, honestly, that fight seems a lot more appealing than anything else right now going on in heavyweight. Seeing two guys like Roy Jones Jr. Okay, let me just say this: Roy Jones Jr. ended his career at 66 wins, 9 losses, 47 KOs. The losses were at the very end of his career because he kept coming out of retirement fighting guys still in their primes. So he was losing because he just didn't have the same reflexes anymore.
Yeah.
But you're talking about a guy that was playing basketball and then went into a big fight and then made an elite fighter look like he was just an ordinary fighter because that's just how great he was.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, you have Mike Tyson, ended his career at 50 wins, 6 losses, and 44 KOs. Same thing, towards the end, it wasn't the same Iron Mike Tyson anymore. He didn't have, the same stamina condition as he used to when he was in his prime. So he lost a few fights at the end. When he lost to Douglas, that upset, right there, he was already losing whatever made Mike Tyson from the beginning of his career.
Yeah.
But when you kind of think about the heavyweight division right now, honestly, Anthony Joshua being, all respect to Anthony Joshua for what he's done in his era, right? But I'm comparing an old school era to an era of today. And me being the boxing fan for most of my life, and a training coach, I know a thing or two about boxing. And let me tell you, some of the fights right now in the heavyweight division do not compare to the heavyweight fights back in the day. And I can honestly really vouch for that. Back in the day, you had Lennox Lewis, you had Mike Tyson, you had even George Foreman at an old age competing with the prime and still knocking him out. You had Michael Moore, so many fighters, Riddick Bowe, all these guys were warriors. All these guys were more elite fighters than any of the fighters of today. Honestly, and no disrespect to any of the today's fighters, but I'm just kind of comparing, if I'm going to be honest. And these guys were fighting each other. All these guys were fighting each other because they really wanted to be the best.
Yeah.
And to see two guys from that era coming back out of retirement, whether it's an exhibition match or not, to me, that's a bigger fight and worth more pay-per-view than it is to even see a Wilder fight against Tyson Fury fight.
Yeah. And Wilder's, famous.
Yep. I mean, you're talking about two guys in their primes, but still, my point of the fact is that what does Mike Tyson bring to the table in his prime, and Roy Jones Jr., what he brought to the table?
Yeah.
Put those guys together, whether they're 54 years old or not, it's the skill. I want to see the skill again, man. I'm hungry for that type of skill.
So if you look at even though it's two older guys, right?
Absolutely.
So if you think of all the older fighters that you've seen fight, I mean, I can name a few in MMA. It was Ken Shamrock and Royce Gracie. They're awful.
Oh, well,
they were terrible. But if you look at Mike Tyson, when I was thinking about this the other day, I was thinking about Mike Tyson, how much damage has he really taken? You know what I mean? So I know his diet was on par. He was doing drugs when he was super famous. Now he seems just in a different place. So I feel he's just gonna come out and be different. He's not beat down,
Well, good point that you said. How much damage has he taken? I'm gonna tell you this though. This is what makes this fight very interesting. Roy Jones Jr. was one of the best defensive guys out there, as long as offensive. I'm the type of boxing coach that when I train to, don't just slip or miss the punch, but make it count back, right? So if you're gonna slip back, your arm's already there, throw it back as a counter, right away. Well, that's exactly the way Roy Jones Jr. was. He made you miss and you were gonna pay. He didn't take a lot of punishment during his career. Now Mike Tyson, on the other hand, he wasn't as a fancy fighter as Roy Jones Jr., in which, with the fancy footwork and all that stuff, but he was a really good defensive fighter where he slipped out of those punches. So that's what makes this interesting, because even though they're 50 years old and they haven't fought in years, well, Roy Jones has actually still been active more than Mike Tyson has.
Yeah.
But they are going to put up a good show because both fighters have already taken some time off per se from taking punches. But even when they were fighting, they had really good defensive skills.
Yeah, I mean,
so they're not going to be completely beat up just because they're 54 years old.
Exactly.
And it's going to be competitive because they're both 54 years old. It's not as Roy Jones Jr. right now at 50 fighting guys that are still, 30 or in their 20s.
True.
And in the primes. Where, yeah, it's not going to be as competitive anymore because the reflexes are not the same.
Yeah.
So you have two great fighters from the old school era in which you had a bubble of a bunch of great fighters fighting at the same time, coming out of retirement, fighting an exhibition match, great defensive skills, great offensive skills. It's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm actually very excited to see this, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the idea to people, like, you get the naysayers, like, no, they shouldn't do it. But, I mean, I don't feel like you should be able to just, if they want to do it, let them do it. It's just like there's certain things that you need in your life that, the competition is another thing. Like, yeah, there's a cumulative brain damage and, it's their choice. You know what I mean? So as far as like people naysaying the fight, do you have anything to say as far as like people not wanting them to fight? I mean, it's just weird when people get involved like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is what I think. In every sport, on social media and the press, there's always going to be different opinions, different perspectives about if you should or would. But the fact is that I truly believe that both these guys were such elite fighters at their primes. They have taken care of each other's bodies. I mean, if you look at Roy Jones Jr., he's never like really badly out of shape. You look at Mike Tyson, he's not badly out of shape. So they have obviously taken care of themselves even after they've retired from boxing. Right? Roy Jones Jr. has even been active actually on and off. Yeah. So the way I kind of see it is, I think they still have it in them. And like I said, it's competitive because it's not like one is double the age of the other,
Yeah.
I mean, even though Roy Jones Jr. has been active and Mike Tyson hasn't fought in years, I truly believe that it's going to be a competitive match. And, I really think it's going to be an exciting one. And I think not only myself, but I think a lot of people out there are excited to see this.
I agree. They both look really good in all their videos. I mean, Mike Tyson is like, he looks lighter on his feet even, right? Like he still looks super powerful and just moves really well. You're right. I mean, they definitely take care of themselves. So it'd be worth every penny to me, I believe.
I'll tell you what, if I pay any money for pay-per-view fights, it's going to be to see that fight because I know I'm going to see skill. I'm going to see two guys that are just going to be happy. You know what? Let's display our skills and let's prove these people, people criticizing us that, we're old and why should we do it? We're going to get hurt. I think they have a lot to prove as well.
And they don't need to do it.
And they don't need to do it.
They don't need to do it.
I'm not saying that, they're as rich as a Floyd Mayweather Jr.
Yeah.
I know Mike Tyson had his issues financially and he didn't make good choices. Plus, Don King was his promoter and just like a lot of other fighters, he stole a lot of their money or whatever the case might be, right? But the fact is that Mike Tyson has been doing a bunch of other little things on the side. He's had shows.
Yeah.
He's been on documentaries. I mean, so, he's not the billionaire he was, but he does have plenty of money.
Yeah, he's got Tyson Ranch now, he just built, so he's got his podcast, Hot Boxing with Mike Tyson. He grows all his own weed now, which is really strong and really good. I mean, he built a ranch. I think it's in Central California. He's got a lot of things going for him. Yeah, it's like a huge ranch, so I don't know a lot of details on it, but he's got his podcast. His podcast does really well.
You feel like visiting him or
so,
ranch?
Yeah, it's just interesting. Like it's just like his whole life is just his podcast. He's got
he's
Eminem
an interesting guy for say the least.
Yeah, he's got Eminem, everyone. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like, it's cool. And everyone's awestruck.
Nah.
He's still like so famous. Everywhere he goes, he's so famous.
Wow. No, he is. People love him now, especially now with the new Mike Tyson attitude. Mm-hmm. Yeah, people see the change and they appreciate it. Yeah. But now Roy Jones Jr. now, I know he's been fighting because that's just his heart. I know that financially, For the most part, once again, I don't think he's like a billionaire like a Mayweather, right?
Yeah.
Or De La Hoya, but you know, he's financially set.
Yeah.
So they're doing it out of the passion because that's what they love to do.
Yeah.
And they're entertainers, and I really think that they're gonna entertain people. And I really hope, honestly, because not too long ago, Chavez and fighter Travieso, they also had an exhibition match in Mexico. And man, that 3-round exhibition match had more action than a lot of these guys fighting 12 rounds, you know, in this era. And, you know, I'm thinking that those two guys have actually now gave ideas to other people.
Yeah. I mean, they say peaceful times make weak people, but those guys, so Chavez and like Tyson and all those guys were, you know, they're warriors. They're true warriors, and it's totally different than what we have today.
Yeah. But guess who's trash talking, thinking that they brought the whole idea? Now everyone wants to do it. Guess one person. Boxer.
De La Hoya.
No.
I don't know.
Mayweather.
Mayweather
Is saying, oh, because, you know, I'm fighting exhibition matches, now everybody wants to do it. Okay, this is the difference. This is the difference, fans. Is the fact that Mayweather is going out to Tokyo, China, wherever. He's doing exhibition matches against kickboxers, MMA fighters. One of his professional fights was against, you know, McGregor, which he just made millions and millions of dollars. You know, McGregor, great fighter, MMA, a lot of respect for the man. I'm a big fan of McGregor, but, you know, McGregor just was not an elite boxer. His thing is, you know, you box and you fight on the floor. You know, now if it was the opposite around, I don't think that, you know, vice versa, Mayweather would have lasted long at all, being choked on the floor. Okay?
Or a leg kick.
No, exactly. So my point of the thing is that Mayweather is just honestly, and no disrespect to Mayweather at all, this is just my opinion, he's just not fair, you know, fair as far as like doing these exhibition matches, you know, where he fought this young guy that he outweighed by like 30 pounds, kickboxer, and yeah, he knocked him out, but I mean, still, how exciting was that? It wasn't that exciting to go and outmatch somebody that is not even at your league of a professional boxer.
Yeah.
Now you're talking about, you know, Chavez Sr. doing an exhibition match. He did an exhibition match with another elite, you know, ex-fighter. And Travieso was a great fighter in his prime as well. So you got two great fighters in the primes that did an exhibition match. That was exciting. Now you got, you know, Tyson, and then you also have, you know, Roy Jones Jr. come out of retirement and do the same thing. So, you know, enough said. This is going to be a great match. I'm excited for it. So, you know, don't miss it.
September 12th?
September 12th.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so man, I'm super excited about this fight, Christoph. I think, you know, once we have the fight, we're gonna, you know, order it. We're gonna chow down with some Dos Equis, with some nice lime and a little bit of salt on the top, and we're gonna watch the best fight. Best.
No Mike Tyson weed. No. Okay, just throw it out there. Sorry.
Well,
I'm promoting for Mike Tyson. That's what I'm doing. You saw that.
okay. For all the young children out there, you didn't hear this. Okay.
Sorry.
Anyhow, thank you so much for tuning in to the Andujo Boxing Review. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to follow us on Popeye Boxing 1 Instagram and
Christoph Flu
on Instagram.
on Instagram.
So we'll see you guys next time. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.